Hello, broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere no longer in the big, beautiful blue city of Los Angeles. My name is Brian Engelman. Today is Friday, June 27, 2025, and this is the TNAM Daily Show here on the New American Media, because the old American media has failed you. You know that it failed you. That's why you found us. That's why you come back. Nobody's giving us a script. We don't get talking points memos. We're not corporate shills trying to push a product on you. All we're trying to do is unpack what's happening in the world, and we try to just be accurate about it. What a shocking development that would be. I'm Team America. That's my team. That's it. I don't really have a horse in the race other than I'm a member of America and I want us to do well. No particular ill will to anybody doing their thing wherever it happens to be. Although I do sort of loathe human rights abusers. Not all cultures are the same. Not all societies protect their people the same. I want this country to be fantastic. I want it to be awesome. I want it great, greater, greatest. Make America the greatest it's ever been. How about that for a logo? Make America the greatest it's ever been. It's a little wordy, a little verbose, but it's okay. Fairly accurate. So on today's show, we are going to discuss Birthright Citizenship Injunction on nationwide such and such. Supreme Court has made a big ruling on birthright citizenship injunctions across the country. We're going to break it down because it's almost like a negative, a double negative, a triple negative. So they're blocking the block of the block that's blocking hold on, what are we even talking about? But it's a big deal. Birthright citizenship, it was put in place for one specific reason, and it's been twisted and bastardized into something that it was never intended to be. We're also going to discuss the China deal. Look at that. A big, beautiful deal. We'll talk about that. And all the other things in the news. If there's any story you want us to cover, drop it into the comments. And you know what? I'm going to make a at the risk of maybe wanting to go back on this, I will make you an offer. If you drop, I want to hear what you have to say about this story. Let me do my best to shuffle the deck of cards to the top of the stack and try to get to that. We had a commenter yesterday asking about an issue. We eventually got to it 2 hours into the show. But you know what? For first-time viewers, people that are here new, checking us out here on the New American Media, I want to make a little bit of a special extra effort to incorporate you into the show. So drop your comments. Once the comment section populates, we'll put it up on the side of the screen here, and we will try to incorporate your questions and jokes and commentary into the program as applicable. So without further delay, we bring you the TNAM Daily Show, which is a subdivision of the Agree to Disagree show. Here we go.
your guide to the truth. thenewamericanmedia.com.
Well, that was interesting. Facebook was saying they're waiting for a signal on our live show. Well, we're live. We're on Facebook. Join our live daily show. Lucy, Luce? No, Live. There we go. I love auto incorrect. That's always a favorite of mine. Okay, we are streaming there. Let's double check and make sure we are still. Why did Rumble go dark? Rumble is up and going. Let's close all these extra tabs. All right, cool. And we are live, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on it's a Friday. Best Friday we've had all week, right? There we go. Comments are up. Hello, Deb from Sacramento. Treat. Hello, Deb. Kenneth. Story of Hansel and Regretta Thunberg. Yes, everybody else out there who has not yet commented, hit like, hit subscribe, drop your name in the comments, however you're watching us. If you have the opportunity to leave a comment, please do so. State your name and purpose, and tell us where you're watching from. We love incorporating you into the program with your comments. If you're only following us on YouTube, please follow us in other places because YouTube doesn't like you. And you should not like Google YouTube either, but it's okay for now, temporarily. Scrolling at the bottom of our screen are the places you can find the New American Media. We exist on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odysee, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube at the New American Media. We're on Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_media_. And subscribe to our podcast. It's called The Agree to Disagree Show on Spotify and Apple, and that includes the TNAM Daily shows. Thank you so much. Also, coming up at the end of the month here, so Patreon will be billing, I believe, on the first of the month. Anybody who is currently subscribed as a sponsor, we appreciate you so much. And anybody who's considering doing so, please go to patreon.com/The New American Media or at The New American Media. Both should get you to the same place, but it's all scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We also have tip jars at Venmo and Cash App at BrianEngelman and PayPal at Fuzz Installment. So if anybody wants to join us there, thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and jump to our Instagram feed and go through what's going on. We're going to unpack a lot of stories and try to make sense of it. Like I said, it's what did the Supreme Court do? It blocked the block of the block. And you're like, hold on, that's a double, triple negative. So it is, but it isn't, but it is, but it was, but it is, but it can't, but it won't. So we're going to try to make sense of all of that. Let's do it now. Let's jump into Instagram. You know what? This just happened to pop up. I'm not offering my comments on it. I probably did a half hour on this clown yesterday, this Jamal Bowman. What would you expect from a guy that pulls the fire alarm in the halls of Congress? You can understand it in college or high school or at a hotel when you're in middle school. Yeah, okay, fine. But in the halls of Congress, you're going to pull the fire alarm, Jamal Bowman? Not surprised he would have the most ridiculous take you might have ever heard. I'm just going to play it without comment and move on past it since it happens to be queued up here on our Instagram feed. Here you go. Enjoy.
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease... I'm white, I can't comment. Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day. If you can't...
I promised you no commentary. I'm going to move on. Scroll back to yesterday's show. Oh, I had plenty to say on this yesterday. All right, let's move on. Babylon B bringing us some humor. Says, the Democrats discover an innovative strategy of promising free stuff to stupid people. Is this what the Democrats have always done? Promising free stuff to stupid people? The politics of greed and envy? Yeah. Yeah. New York, pull your heads out of your asses and put a real mayor in there. For the love of God, don't do what London did. Don't keep repeating your stupid mistakes over and over again. I like New York. New York is better than this. Don't go full socialist. Don't go full communist. Well, actually, no, we know what he is. He's promising free stuff to stupid people, and he's going to destroy the city in about 100 different ways. So, hey, New York, figure it out. Anyway, that's kind of funny. Free stuff to stupid people. All right.
How?
Well, here's Chris Cuomo going in on AOC. You love to see the snake eating its own tail. Here you go.
How do you keep them from having the nuke? Impeach
Cuomo going in on AOC about Iran.
Trump is the opposite of having a better idea. You're killing your party. You're killing your party.
I think you already did.
And look, I hope it works out for you. I hope you guys splinter off and become, whatever you really are. Because you're not a capitalist and you're not a Democrat.
Oh.
And, you could say, well, what?
Look, Democrats have about a 19% approval rating. I think this is who the Democrats are, which is why nobody likes them, which is why nobody supports them, which is why they're a laughingstock, which is why America overwhelmingly selected to fire them last time. It shouldn't have been as close as it was, though. I have reasons on why I think the vote is so close. And I think the big blue cities have things very well rigged to deliver ballots that get counted. Doesn't mean it's citizens who are voting. Because I have a hard time believing some of these big blue cities consistently vote against their own self-interest over and over and over again just to keep Democrats in power. It's voting against your own interest is really suicidal. New York said they'll never forget. And then they want to put this guy in office. Okay. But anyway, Chris Cuomo, I think this is what the Democrat Party has been reduced to, which is why all the reasonable people who were formerly aligned with Democrats, because, there's some social libertarian issues and, try to add a little bit of compassion and maybe a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of balance. But the party is being run by extreme radicals. So either you're extremely radical or you're MAGA. You want to make America great. Make America the greatest it's ever been. So I don't think AOC isn't a Democrat. I think the Democrats have totally lost the plot, jumped the shark, and screwed the pooch. I insert favorite catchphrase here. The Democrats have lost the consent of the governed.
What do you know? I was raised by a real one.
Okay, a real one, a real Democrat. Bill Clinton would be screamed out of this Democrat Party today. JFK, forget about it. He wouldn't be welcome in this Democrat Party. The Democrats are for open borders. Hamas stealing from people to purchase votes, promising free stuff to stupid people. The Democrats are just a party of the opposite of whatever President Trump is doing. That's not a strategy for success. That's madness. So the real one that your grandma was, that party's gone. They've been absorbed into the Republican Party. When RFK Jr., Kennedy, a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had to join MAGA because they rigged their primaries like they always do, at least in recent memory, against Bernie Sanders, superdelegates for Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden. To replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris, someone that no delegate in the Democrat Party voted for. They rigged their primary this time. Buddy, Mr. Cuomo, your grandma's Democrat Party is gone. They don't exist anymore. There's no rebuilding it. They're gone, which is why 19% approval rating for Democrats.
Go ahead and criticize Mario Cuomo. What's going to be your biggest insult? That he spawned me and Andrew? Is that going to be the best you have? Because you ain't shit compared to him. Not in terms of intelligence, not in terms of success, not in terms of pedigree, not in terms of philosophy, not in terms of mission, not in terms of eloquence, not in terms of charisma, not in terms of anything. Certainly not electability.
I love how he stuttered and stammered over charisma and eloquence. But that was the hubris coming out. That was the hubris coming out. He tripped over his own words because he was thinking about how great he was. Anyway, just an interesting little, like when I watch these videos, I look for these interesting moments.
You are killing your party.
But I agree with his greater point. That's fine. I do agree with his greater point. The squad has destroyed the Democrat Party. We don't want radical Islam in America. We don't want radical Marxism, communism, socialism, Leninism, Stalinism, whatever your gross ism is. No thanks. We want actual capitalism in this country, a meritocracy. We want government to get the hell out of our way, get out of our wallets, get out of our pocketbooks, get out of our pants. Yeah. Get out of our kids' heads. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. We don't want our children to be brainwashed and confused into unnecessary gender butchery. Hello, David. All of our regulars pulling on up. Grab your bar stool. Come on over to the bar. Let's talk about things, shall we? Let's chat. But yeah, I do agree with the Cuomo greater point here.
Because you are not a real one.
I mean, she's a real piece of work.
Because you're doing what's good for you in a vacuum. With your little social media following, you're no different than a pod bro. And you're
a pod bro? Cuomo, I think you're a pod bro.
Killing your party. And Democrats better wake the fuck up.
Yeah, but Democrats deserve to be destroyed. That Democrat Party deserves to be splintered into 1,000 pieces and cast to the corners of the earth. Corners of the earth? Isn't the earth round? What is this I hear about a firmament? A totally unrelated question to what Cuomo is talking about here on this video clip. Agree or disagree? The earth is round and our solar system is heliocentric. Agree or disagree? That'll be our first agree or disagree question. Type out one sentence. Yes, I agree. The earth is round and our solar system is heliocentric. Or I disagree. The earth isn't round and we are not heliocentric. What say you? So yes, agree or disagree in the comments if you want to participate.
And realize that you're better than this. Be with the 80.
Is AOC better than this? I don't think she is. Cuomo's saying be with the 80. If you're with the 80, you're in MAGA.
Not the 20.
The 20 is the Democrats, run by the squad and AOC.
Okay?
No, it's not okay. The Democrats don't stand for 80 issues. They stand for 20 issues. David does not agree that the earth is round. Kenneth says the earth is shaped like a chocolate bar. I'm just saying. Just putting it out there.
Hey? How do you...
So, anyway, Cuomo, I like the snake eating its tail, but really, you made your bed, sleep in it. Benny Johnson here reporting, food giant Nestle is going to be removing all artificial dyes from their products by the end of the year. Speaking of giant chocolate bars, I said chocolate. Brianna. Chocolate. Food giant Nestle removing all artificial dyes from their products by the end of the year. I think it's a year and a half, actually. And I understand they need to source new materials. I understand they need to reformulate. I understand, but I don't understand why this stuff has to take a year and a half. Just do it. You could get this done in a month, couple months. Just figure it out. This dragging ass for 2 years, like, come on. But, you know, I've heard Scott Adams talk about it. And yeah, I reference Scott Adams a lot. He does a good show. He's one of the thought leaders, an interesting brain. I like listening to interesting people unpack stuff, even if they go on tangents. Or Scott's very focused. Adam Carolla's kind of all over the place sometimes, ranty. But it's like I just like listening to how brains are wired and how they unpack things and how they see things, how they see the world. But I've heard Scott mention before, and I can't remember exactly what context. I can't remember what story it was. But in a case like this, Nestle decides that they're going to do something. And you're like, well, what took them so long? Why did they wait so long? In this case right here, I'm like, yeah, well, why not do it now? Why is it? It shouldn't take more than a month. Just do it. Do it now. Why has it got to be a year and a half or 2 years down the road? I know Benny said a year, but I think it's actually a year and a half. And I'll extend that to 2 years. But we have a tendency to take good news and then say, yeah, but it should have been better. Stop. In psychology, we learn, I having a psychology degree, we learn in behavioral, I'm trying to remember what was it, just behavioral psychology? I'm trying to remember the name of the exact class. But if you want something to happen more, you praise it and reward it. But and first instinct is like, oh, I'm so glad this thing happened. But you instantly lead with, well, why did it take you so long? Or, well, you need to do it faster. No. Just be like, heck yeah, Nestle, bravo. Heck yeah. I'm so thrilled to hear you say this. I'd also love to see it move very fast, maybe even beating your deadlines that you're setting. But bravo, like lead with bravo, stay on bravo, maybe drop a nugget of, oh, also this and maybe that, or, you know, I wish you, okay, fine. But then wrap it up with bravo. Like, that's a great decision. I support it. I'm so happy to hear this. It makes it so much more likely I'm going to buy any of your products moving forward. Now, if they could get rid of seed oils, that would be great. Those things are in everything. They're in everything. Back to the earth being flat. David says, I can't say it's flat for sure, but there's enough evidence to question it. Yeah, they talk in the Bible about a firmament, right? Like a dome. People talking about the space program. Have we really been to the moon? Is China on the dark side of the moon right now? Are we on the dark side of the moon? I don't know. Can we get to Mars? Is there even a Mars? Is this all just a computer simulation? Am I really here? Am I artificial intelligence? Am I even intelligent? But I love these topics. I cover the politics of the day. I cover the breaking stories, and we just unpack them. But man, I love the esoteric, the philosophical. I love that stuff. I love that. Kenneth mentioning that they did a study why it is that bees behave in beehives. I must be behind in my studies on that one. Well done. Genesis 1 through 15. Here, let me ask Grok. Summarize Genesis 1 through 15. Foundational narratives in the Bible created the heavens and the earth. Oh, this is summarize more succinctly. Well, okay. World's created in 6 days. Light, sky, land, plants, celestial bodies, animals, humans. Adam and Eve placed in Eden, forbidden to eat from the tree of knowledge. Serpent tempts Eve. Now, here's a question about, God, I said I'm going to do a focus show today, and now I'm talking about the Garden of Eden. Lord help me. But that's why you tune in. You never know it. Mama always said the T-Nam Daily Show was like a box of chocolates. or a bar of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. I was running. I've always wondered, wisdom. Aren't we seeking wisdom? Aren't we seeking knowledge? So why is wisdom bad? There's forbidden fruit, which is knowledge and information. I deliver you a show each day full of knowledge and information. What righteous God would want you to be ignorant of information? In the comments. Isn't knowledge and wisdom important? It helps us with our discernment and our decision making. That's a part that I really... Anyway, it brought sin and curses, expelled from Eden. Cain kills Abel, cursed but marked for protection. Seth is born, continuing Adam's line. Genealogy from Adam to Noah, highlighting long lifespans. Humanity's wickedness prompts God to send a flood, sparing righteous Noah and his family with the ark. Post-flood, God covenants with Noah, promising no more global floods, symbolized by a rainbow. Oh yeah, the rainbow. That's the purpose of the rainbow. Noah's sons, descendants from nations. Tower of Babel leads to God confusing languages and scattering people. Shem's line leads to Abram. God calls Abram, promising land, descendants, and blessing. Abram journeys, faces trials, and God establishes a covenant, promising a son and numerous offspring. But yeah, there's a firmament. And now I'm going to read to you. And now we'll sing the hymn In the Garden of Eden, written by Ron Butterfly. Separated water from above and the water below. Yeah, but there's a firmament. Describe the firmament topic in the Bible. Genesis 1-6-8 refers to a structure created by God on the second day of creation. The Hebrew term is rakia, often translated as firmament in older English translations, or expanse or sky in modern ones. Below is a concise. Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. Let it separate the waters from the waters. God creates the firmament, calling it heaven or sky, separating the waters above from the waters below. This forms a space where the earth's atmosphere and terrestrial waters are distinguished. Firmament divides the primordial waters into two parts. Waters above, possibly clouds or a heavenly reservoir. And waters below, oceans and rivers, creating a habitable space for life. Sun, moon, and stars placed in the firmament of the heavens to give light and mark time. The heavens linked to the firmament declare God's glory, suggesting a vast ordered structure. In Ezekiel 25:17, the path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who shepherds the weak from the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. Question of the day. What is that from? Other than the Bible. Why did I close my eyes and remember it word for word? Close to word for word. I might have added a little something there. Anyway, enough about the firmament. It's just an interesting subject. Firm, I meant. I said to my plastic surgeon. Oh, boy. Yes, we've heard the CEO of Nestle and drinking water. Yeah, there's several people out there that want to claim water as their own and try to divert it. And there's governments that say you can't capture rainwater off your roof into a rain barrel. The hell you have the right to tell me what I can and can't do with what falls on my property. The hell you have that right. David, you are correct. What a great movie. Haven't watched that movie in a while, but it's a great one. All right. Anyway, kudos to Nestle. Was the point of that? There was a point to that. So artificial dyes will be removed by 2026. All right. I read that by it could be as late as December 31st, 2026, which is about a year and a half. But bravo, Nestle. Let's get this done across the board. All right. So CNN fake news is backtracking big time. This being shared by the typical liberal. Backtracking big time as they air that Trump was right. The Iran strikes were effective and the leaked intelligence report was wrong.
First time we know it is that as it was designed, as these massive ordnance penetrators with significant computer software engineering went directly down those 3 ventilator shafts, specifically as designed. And until you actually do it, you never know if it's going to work. It worked. It seems to have worked flawlessly. That is very important information. He also pointed out some things we take for granted. A Patriot interceptor is traveling at 3,000 miles an hour, about Mach 4, to hit a ballistic missile, traveling at about 6,000 miles an hour, Mach 8. This is really difficult. We take for granted how this stuff all works. I thought that was very important to lay out. So as I come out of this briefing, I now know BDA level 2, as I mentioned. Level 1, first 24 hours, you're looking at imagery. Level 2, did the ordnance work? Did everything go as we had wanted? The answer now is yes. And we're now in the phase of level 3, collecting all sources of information and then putting that together with nuclear experts to determine if they have these pieces and parts here, could they reconstitute them? With some political analysts to say, would the Iranians do that? What would be the restraints? To then have a comprehensive assessment of where we are. With the objective being Iran can never have a nuclear weapon and its enrichment program has to be completely destroyed. I think from what I've seen, the 20,000 centrifuges, you had about 17,000 in Natanz, about 3,000 in Fordo, they are all completely destroyed. I am very confident those centrifuges are gone. The Israelis destroyed the centrifuge manufacturing production facilities that we know of. Isfahan, which is the conversion facility, key part of the fuel cycle, also appears to have been destroyed. So if you add it up from what we're seeing, massive catastrophic setback for Iran's program. The term of art, obliterated, destroyed, I kind of step out of that. This is an analytical process. It's important for the professionals now in the intelligence community to be able to do their work without political pressure and come out with their assessments. And we'll know soon enough. There's a lot of work going on here from U.S. intelligence agencies, from Mossad and the Israelis, from other partners. But I thought that briefing was important. We now know that operation that was developed over multiple administrations.
Multiple administrations had been working on this policy, working on this strategy, working on this plan. Multiple military leaders. Like, I'm okay knowing that the Iranian nuclear capability is likely kaput. I think that makes the world a better place. And I'd like to see Iran handed back to the people of that country instead of their religious zealots. Fingers crossed on step 2.
Worked exactly as it was designed. So I didn't know that. I couldn't have confirmed that 24 hours ago. I now know those 3 ventilators, they went down there and it worked. That's new. And that means probably Fordo is rendered inoperable for the foreseeable future, probably forever. Briefing, first time we know it, is that.
So we put in here, CNN only exists as a satire site for mockery purposes. Wonder if people agree or disagree on that one. But, this knee-jerk reaction to make Trump look stupid every single time he does anything, it's tiring. It's exhausting. It's stupid. A lot of good things are happening. And in the aftermath of what we saw, why don't you just let it play out? Why don't you just give it the 72 hours to kind of figure it out? Or at least report saying, we don't know. There are some really lean into the fact that, there's some preliminary reports and we don't know what we don't know, but, there's some stuff going on. They don't do it that way. They come out with solid analysis that's incorrect. And it's just, don't be so sure of yourself when you can't be sure of yourself. All right. Here is Batya Unger Sargon talking about Democrats and how they've alienated working class voters.
Here's what I think the right needs to understand about this moment. The Democrats are transitioning from elite, woke, far-left cultural positions around race and gender that were deeply alienating to working-class voters to socialist, redistributionist economic policies that, Bianca, it turns out, are equally alienating to working class voters. So if you look at where Mamdani did best, he did the best with New Yorkers who have advanced degrees, who are high income, who are white, who are Asian, who live.
They've been brainwashed. They've been indoctrinated. They've been made to feel bad about themselves and their successes. It's not educated, it's indoctrinated.
In North Brooklyn or who have gentrified Queens. And meanwhile, if you look at majority Black areas, Hispanic areas, and areas in New York where people don't have degrees, Cuomo won there. So this is a very elite agenda, despite the fact that it is socialist. It is kind of trust fund socialist. I definitely think AOC had a great night Tuesday night, and this does suggest that the Democrats are opening up to a progressive message. Certainly all of the biggest names in the Democratic Party came out and basically endorsed Mamdani. If they didn't endorse him, they voiced support for him. I'm talking about Bill Clinton and Jerry Nadler and Chuck Schumer and all of these people you think might have had a problem with his very anti-Israel stance. But no, they came out in support of him. And so I think for her, this bodes very well. The Democratic Party is flaky. Here's what I think the right needs to understand about.
I don't know. She's also kind of saying it bodes well for her. Like, that clip was cut off, so I couldn't really get the end of it there, but interesting take. Here's one. A federal judge has ruled that President Trump dropping an F-bomb without consulting Congress is unconstitutional. That's another comedic joke. There's another comedy bit right there, a little satire. Federal judge rules Trump dropping an F-bomb without consulting Congress is unconstitutional. So funny. God, I love that. Okay, so this is happening now. How do you feel about this? This is a good agree or disagree question. Some Republican voters are now calling on President Trump to use the Communist Control Act of 1954 to stop Zohran Mamdani from becoming mayor of New York, while others argue over the constitutionality of such a move. So, should we ban commies? The long title is an act to outlaw the Communist Party to prohibit members of communist organizations from serving in certain representative capacities and for other purposes. Effective August 24, 1954. The scoop is saying some Republicans are urging Trump to invoke the Communist Control Act of 54 to block radical socialist Zohran from becoming mayor of NYC. They say his extremist agenda poses a threat to American values. The Scoop US says, I say do it. If we don't, we may no longer even have a country to save if this man gets his way. Would you support using the Communist Control Act? So how about that as a question of the day? Where is it? Here, let me go to this one. I support President Trump using the Commie Control Act of 1954 to block Zohran from running and winning the mayor of NYC. Agree or disagree? You support Trump invoking the Commie Control Act to block Zohran from ruining New York any further. Agree or disagree? Swing. This was kind of powerful. Fair, unfair? This Zohran, born in Uganda, definitely pro-radical Islamic, according to some. In New York City was decimated by alleged radical Islamist terror attacks in 2001. And so the question is, you know, Did New York forget? You're going to hand over the keys to your city to a radical Islamist? If he is indeed such a thing, as some people say. This is the jumping man or the diving man. It's painful to look at that image. That was a super traumatic moment in our nation's history. We all watched it on TV, and just South Park did a great episode where Sharon? Yeah. Sharon? Yeah. Yeah, Sharon, you've been wrapped up in that blanket watching the news 24/7 for the past 3 weeks. Can you? And it was just like we were just traumatized. So if this Zoran is a radical Islamist that wants to bring Sharia and communism into New York City, did New York forget? They said never forget. Is that a fair comparison? I don't know. It's got me thinking, though. It's just tough to look at. And it's tough to see what New York might be doing. They've had a string of really bad mayors. Take radical Islam aside. The commie socialist running people out of the city. That's on record. This post here says from Just Fed Up says, coming soon. Lady Liberty will have to cover herself up like a slave, like a captor, a captured slave. You're gonna wrap Lady Liberty in this Islamic garb? Is this what New York is deciding to do? That's what Sharia is. You cover up your face. I show me where that is in line with civil liberties. You say, well, there's nothing wrong with, let people worship how they want to worship. Well, not when the goal is to conquer and dominate cities and states and countries all across the globe in a caliphate. Is this really what New York is going to do? Lady Liberal, yes. Lady Liberty turns to Lady Liberal. Did New York forget? Is New York really going into radical Islam? Like London? Is this what you're doing? Does covering up your face in embarrassment and shame, does that give off American values? Like, do you get the vibe of Americana looking at Lady Liberty wrapped up like that? Anyway, moving on. Quotes by Gen Y. So baggy jeans are popular. Oasis is touring, and we're at war with Iran. We're in high school again. Yeah, make the 90s relevant again. Things go in cycles, don't they? All right, here's CNN on MRC Newsbusters lying about their own report about the Iranian strike from America. Emotional
speech and outrage from the defense secretary. What he said about the DIA assessment is what CNN reported on. His issue that he took about it being preliminary, about it being low confidence. CNN reported on all of this. I was looking back just to make sure that we had it all throughout the reporting process. CNN had reported that it is preliminary and, of course, can be updated, including these two parts. It is still early, we reported in our initial report, for the U.S. to have a comprehensive picture of the impact of the strikes. None of the sources described how the DIA assessment compares to the views of other agencies in the intelligence community. The U.S. is continuing to pick up intelligence, including from within Iran, as they assess the damage. Also in CNN reporting, where the secretary took real issue and seemed very upset about it not being stated that there was low confidence stated in this DIA assessment. Also in CNN reporting, including this, the final U.S. military battle damage assessment by the DIA could take days or even weeks to complete. Multiple sources familiar with the Pentagon's process told CNN the initial DIA analysis was produced just 24 hours after the attack, according to one of the sources, because it was only a preliminary analysis. Its judgments were low confidence, the sources said. It was not coordinated with the wider intelligence community, according to a U.S. official, and the document itself acknowledged that it could take weeks to produce a finalized assessment. So just to put,
it is literally what he said we did not report.
It is a preliminary report. The reporting was done. Emotion.
They're saying they claim the report included the facts that it was low confidence and preliminary, but these words are nowhere to be found in their initial report, according to MRC News Busters people. So take that for what it's worth. They're liberal propagandists. All right, so let's talk about RFK Jr., what's coming up. This here on CNBC, former FDA commissioner predicting RFK Jr.'s upcoming report will link something to something, causing a whole wave of lawsuits. Well, if they're doing things that are harming people, shouldn't they be wide open to lawsuits? Yes.
I think what he's setting up is to declare in his autism report in the fall that there's a link between alum and autism. I think that's where this is heading if I was to make a prediction. If he does that, that will open the door to litigation under the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program and create a whole wave of lawsuits that I think will drive a lot of vaccine makers out of the market. You could see companies.
So he won't even stop them from doing it. He will do it through the lawsuits, and that will make the companies say, forget it.
Well, he's always seen litigation as a tool to try to achieve his objectives. You could see companies, people say, can the company.
Hold on. Achieve his objectives or the objectives of protecting Americans from damage? This isn't about one man's mission. It's about the health of Americans. The way they frame these things is just infuriating.
Companies get out of the manufacturing of vaccines, they can certainly spin it out. And at a time when.
Yeah, you think companies would get away from harming Americans if, in fact, they are harming Americans? They damn well better.
Every other nation is trying to build up its vaccine enterprise and sees it as a national security imperative. We're dismantling ours in this country. I think what.
This comment says Biden's FDA commissioner isn't happy. Listen to Scott Gottlieb expressing concern for Big Pharma and the amount of lawsuits they'll soon be facing. It's almost as if our agencies were captured and owned by corporations. So, thank you, Bobby Kennedy. I'll say thank you, RFK Jr. button. Let's see how many people want to thank Bobby instead of get freaked out here. All right, let's take a look at Orange County, California. Department of Justice is suing them. Why?
Department of Justice is suing Orange County's Registrar of Voter, Bob Page, claiming he held back unedited records about non-citizens removed from voter lists. The lawsuit says that this breaks federal election laws and hurts voter trust. Page says his office shared the records but blacked out private information to follow state law. The DOJ says those edits block proper oversight of federal law. Page has not commented on the lawsuit, but earlier I spoke about this exclusively with Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant U.S. Attorney General for Civil Rights at the Justice Department. All right, Harmeet Dillon, welcome. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So can you sort of lay out the basic argument you're making in this lawsuit?
The lawsuit is about Orange County's refusal to comply with a request that the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division made under the Help America Vote Act. HAVA is a law that requires the jurisdictions in the United States to maintain clean voter rolls as they apply to federal elections. And so, of course, Orange County has many federal elections, and they're required to give us some information. And so they refused to give us personally identifying information that we requested under this law. And the request was spurred by reports that there were people on the voter rolls in Orange County who are not American citizens, and they were, able to vote in federal elections, and that's problematic. So we are conducting our own investigation into that, as we're doing in some other jurisdictions as well.
Department of Justice is suing Orange County's registrar.
All right. Yeah, we said Audit every voter registration database nationwide. There is no way Democrats are legitimately getting the number of ballots that get counted. Agree or disagree? Here's Tom Homan. Our borders are protecting this country.
What the hell's the matter with everybody up in Congress? People are dying every day. ICE is arresting 3 times as many criminals that the Biden administration did. We're taking public safety threats and national security threats off the street every single day. We got over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal histories walking the streets of this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. This should be a no-brainer. The more resources we get, if we get this bill passed, we got more agents on the road. We buy more beds, we get more transportation flights. More agents means more bad guys arrested, taken off the streets of this country every single day. Every day we arrest a public safety threat or national security threat. This makes this country much safer. Who the hell would be against that?
Oh, there's generic music playing in the background. Hey, Google, I'm doing this because I have fair use authorization to do so. It's a Fair Use Act.
And I get irritated. I get pissed off because
I'm sharing this video because I'm listening to Tom Homan get irritated and pissed off, much like I am with your goofy copyright stuff.
I'm sick of meeting angel moms and dads. You want to talk about family separation? They buried their children. So I've done this since 1984. I've worked for 6 different presidents. No one has had the success of the Trump administration. We got the most.
We have the most secure border in the history of this nation today. Pass the bill. Yeah, but you know what? My comment here, it's like, don't hide behind that. I said we need to sort our budget bills into standalone items instead of big bloated boondoggles. We absolutely need a strong border and more arrest of the demons who prey on Americans. But, you know, wrapping it up in this massive bill, it just makes it, you know, it's easy to cram a lot of unnecessary stuff in there at a time when we need to cut anything unnecessary. Carolyn Levitt going off on Natasha Bertrand.
24. Bertrand pushed the suckers and losers hoax. She also pushed the fine people hoax.
So many hoaxes pushed by these Democrats.
Which was taking the president's words purposely out of context. And then last October, and I believe this is notable, Natasha Bertrand published an article in Politico from the intelligence agency. She said that John Ratcliffe was speaking without any evidence when he said Iran was attempting to undermine President Trump's presidential campaign. And then we, of course, found out that was absolutely true. In fact, the Biden administration declassed an intel report which said they had high confidence that Iran had done exactly what Ratcliffe alleged. They did run an influence campaign to hurt President Trump's candidacy. In fact, we know the Iranians tried to take President Trump's life. And so this is a reporter who has been unfortunately used by people who
Is it a reporter or an activist? A disinformation artist?
like Donald Trump in this government to push fake and false narratives. She should be ashamed of herself. And that's not what reporting is. Journalism is trying to find the facts and the truth. And this week we saw this same reporter being used to push a fake narrative to try to undermine the President of the United States, and more importantly, the brave fighter pilots who conducted one of the most successful operations in United States history. And I think the American people fully know that this operation was a complete and total success. Elizabeth, 2020.
To be fair, we don't know that it was a complete and total success. It's fair to ask questions. You know, don't tell us we're not allowed to ask questions. But, you know, the flip side of that is you better frame it properly and don't come out swinging that you know things were a failure when you absolutely couldn't possibly know that. Of course we need to ask questions. I'm not taking anyone's word on anything. But still. All right, Joe Rogan here talking about Sharia law coming to the United States with Vice President J.D. Vance. It's a key issue when you look at New York and this whatever the guy with the Z's name is. I also renew my call to make it a nationwide edict that you can't hold an office. You can't be a political leader if you're not born in this country. We can't start turning cities into sleeper cell cities. We can't start turning them into no-go zones. We can't start turning them into enclaves. You need to have skin in the game. You need to have an American background to govern in America. If it's good enough for the president, it should be good enough for Congress, for mayors, for governors. You shouldn't be able to serve at a high level in American politics unless you were born in America. Because then if you're assimilated into America, you're going to have American ideals. You're not going to be bringing your other nation's stuff over here. We have a way that we want to do things. We want to keep it that way. From wherever you happen to be coming from. Doesn't matter where. There's no one specific place. But in this case, they're talking about the dangers of Sharia. Did we forget? New York said never forget. Did they forget? Here's a reminder.
Worst case scenario is a state adopts Sharia law. This is worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And I think all these people that would cry against the concept of Islamophobia really need to understand what that means and what you're talking about. And to say that that's an outrageous and ridiculous idea that's never going to take place, it's kind of already worked its way into some societies.
It has.
It has.
It has.
And there are, is it Minnesota that has call to prayer?
There is a place in Minnesota, I believe, where they have prayer calls as a matter of local government. I do think that's happening.
That starts getting real weird.
Yeah. Well,
Stuff like that starts getting real weird. And when you have people that are openly saying our goal is, and they've talked about this in Toronto, like activists have said, our goal is to outbreed everyone who is not Muslim and vote it out and put Sharia law in place.
What would happen to a gay couple in Gaza? Executed according to Islamic law. Islam doesn't endorse gayism. Islam doesn't endorse homosexuality. Okay, so would you like to see Sharia law in Canada replace Canadian law? At some point it will. You know.
At some point it will. They want Sharia law to take over Canadian law. And then, David, you would be living under Sharia law. Do you want that? Or should you have immigration restraints so that you don't have an invasion of your country? Immigration without assimilation is invasion.
Because we have families, we are making babies. You're not.
We are making babies. You are not. Look in his eyes. This is colonizing your country. We are making babies. You are not. We're going to have Sharia law and conquer your country. It's the core tenet of the Obama doctrine. I'm going to rail against colonization. Those colonizers of Europe, not okay. So therefore, I am going to fundamentally transform the United States of America and every sovereign nation through my colonization. Look in this guy's eyes. We're having babies. You are not. We're going to bring Sharia law to dominate and overthrow Canada. Take it over.
Your population is going down the slump, right? By 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then? We owe our allegiance and our loyalty first and foremost to our religion, not to the Queen, to be honest. When I went for my...
Why would you allow somebody to come into your country to change your country into something you don't want, into something it is not? That's why you don't let everybody into your country. That's why you have a communist law of 1954 to keep the commies out.
So-called oath, I was silent. I didn't say anything.
During the so-called oath, I was silent. I didn't say anything.
It was your responsibility to make sure you got it out of me. So when I didn't say anything, I'm not liable to any.
It's shady. It's deceptive.
Just like you had a Western majority nation in a land of Native Americans, one day we can have a Muslim majority nation here in Canada. Right in your face.
That's
right in your face.
Very scary.
Women have to wear burqas. This is how it works.
Yeah. Real religious.
Lady Liberty wrapped in a shame sheet. Call it a shame sheet. Real religious tyranny is...
Tyranny is increasingly in Western societies where you've had a large influx of immigrants who don't necessarily assimilate into Western values, but try to create, I think, a religious tyranny at the local level. And if you think that won't happen at a national level, you're crazy.
What's this say? No, oh, look at this tweet from 2016. Norm MacDonald. Hey, what terrifies me is if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device. Yeah, one of those nuclear devices. and kill 50 million Americans. Yeah, 50 million Americans, huh? Imagine the backlash against peaceful Muslims. Eh? That'd be if ISIS detonated a nuclear device killing 50 million. You know, the worst part of that would be the backlash against peaceful Muslims. Yeah? Yeah. 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 It's terrifying, they say.
Worst case scenario.
Kind of terrifying. It is a shit show in Canada. You're right. That's it. I'm going to Mars. I'm going to Mars. I'm going to Mars. I'm going to rebuild on Mars. Breaking. This is from the Real State of America. The mayor of Miami, Florida, wants a total ban on communists becoming citizens or holding public office, similar to the Communist Control Act of the 1950s. Quote, shouldn't be allowed to be citizens, certainly shouldn't be able to run for office. Communism is a virus trained to penetrate our country. Yeah, it should make natural-born citizen requirement for all public offices. More Zoran commentary.
Right now, there are so many people on Twitter angry with me.
It's Olivia Reingold.
Because of my latest story on Zoran Mamdani. For the past week, I have been speaking with billionaires for the Free Press about what they would do if Zoran Mamdani, a 33-year-old socialist, becomes the next mayor of New York City. And many of them told me that they would consider just leaving and maybe even closing down their businesses. That is what the CEO and owner of Gristetti's, the local supermarket chain in Manhattan, said. So on Twitter, I'm getting so many replies because it's all people celebrating, saying, good, leave. We don't want billionaires here. The problem with that is that Zoran's agenda is very, very expensive. His housing plan alone would cost $100 billion. The size of the city's entire budget is $110 billion, to give you some scale. Zoran's plans hinge upon the ability to hike up taxes on the 1% on corporations, but what he's failing to consider is what if they just leave? Because several billionaires this week told me they would consider that. Right now, there are so many people on Twitter angry with me because of my latest story on.
It's unpayable. It's unmanageable, unsustainable. It's undoable. Once again, it's the Democrat plan. The Democrat plan to promise free things to stupid people. This here, hey, you heard of big balls, right? You know, big balls and Doge. So Nick Sorter reporting just in, Doge's big balls is back in the Trump administration, a White House official tells Wired. Edward Big Balls Coristine is now working full-time within the Social Security Administration, identifying the rampant waste, fraud, and abuse that plagues the agency. There you go. Love to see it. Big balls everywhere. Stephen Miller calling out Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Barack Hussein Obama, and the treasonous actions taken to allow America to get flooded by non-citizens to overthrow our country.
Here from Kamala Harris is an apology for joining Joe Biden. And remember, she was the border czar.
Yes, she was the border czar. By the way, yes, David Bann, these commie sympathizers need to travel to Cuba and talk to the people who live there. Ask them how they feel. They hate it. And actually, Biden's regime didn't want Cubans coming because they hate communism. They want libertarianism. They want capitalism. Well, the commies don't want that now, do they? No.
Joining Joe Biden in aiding and abetting the invasion of our country. And we're never going to stop talking about this because what they did to this country is unforgivable. It is an eternal stain on the Democrat Party. Every day we read another story. Every day we arrest another alien they let into this country who raped a child, who beat a woman within an inch of her life, who murdered a mom, who murdered a dad, who trafficked drugs into this country.
Damn those filthy Democrats who pushed these policies.
Who trafficked fentanyl into this country, who are responsible for dead and slaughtered Americans. And I don't know what's broken in the Washington press corps, that none of that moves them emotionally. The only thing that gets them exercised is Do we need to have more trials for terrorist supporters? We need to have more trials for gangbangers. We need to have more trials for illegal alien invaders, even though Congress and the Constitution clearly say that you can expel invaders and illegal aliens quickly, efficiently, and properly. This president has literally saved America, and I could not be prouder. I could not be prouder, as I know Caroline feels the same way, to come every single day to this building where we have a leader sitting in office whose first, last, and every thought is the safety, prosperity, security, and sovereignty of the citizens. That's an important word, people. Citizens of this republic. Thank you. The only thing America...
Thank you, Stephen Miller. Yeah, never stop talking about their treason. Kevin Kiley here says, meanwhile, California has by far... Hold on, let me change this. There you go. California has by far the highest prices in the country. I'm saying this out of order. Leading report says, breaking, U.S. gas prices have dropped to a 4-year low, averaging $3.20 a gallon per New York Times. Meanwhile, California has by far the highest prices in the country, and a USC study predicts $8 a gallon by the end of next year. Our government is broken. And we'll type flee blue cities, flee blue states button. Get out. Byron Donalds has some thoughts.
Nothing lasts forever.
Talking about the difference between New York and Florida, where he's at.
Even the great city of New York. But if they're going to continue to elect people like this, who are radicals, who are socialists, who have this archaic notion that the government can open supermarkets and run them, let's give Mr. Mamdani a little history lesson. The government got out of the business of directly providing food to people. They got out of that business. They got out of that business almost 30 years ago, went to something called food stamps. It's now translated to SNAP. The reason why the government stopped giving away food directly is because they were bad at it. They sucked at it. It was a terrible business model. The costs were overrun. People were not getting what they needed. The food quality sucked. So, if you're going to run on the platform of the city of New York, setting up its own grocery stores, that is a failed policy. To the people of New York, if you're sick and tired of radical liberal policy, there's a place for you called Florida. But if your taxes get too high and you just want to flee, but you want to keep the same politics, please don't come to Florida, because you need to actually look at what you're supporting, why it's destroying your city, and we don't want that to happen in the great state of Florida. Too much work has been done by too many great leaders, including our current governor, Ron DeSantis. Don't mess up our state by coming down here because he elected somebody who is an economic fool like Mr. Mamdani.
Economic fool. In light of what Bobby Kennedy is pushing for accountability and actual testing of the things that some people say you need to squeeze into your body, here's Eric Clapton talking about his personal situation. By the way, for countervailing views, I say this to you under duress. I'm scrolling over so you can see what I'm doing. For countervailing views on health and elections, go to cdc.gov, who.int, and cisa.gov/rumor control. Because they would listen to someone, a legend like Eric Clapton, telling you his personal story, and they would want to silence you from learning about it because they hate you. They think you're stupid. They think you're gullible enough to just do what you're told, even if it's bad for you. So here's Eric Clapton's story for your enjoyment.
When it came to the beginning of this year, and the Barrington guys were talking about the vaccine as being the deal breaker, and I thought, okay. And I went and had the jab. Within several hours, I was shaking like a leaf, and I went to bed early, and I couldn't get warm. And I thought, am I running a fever? I was boiling hot and sweating, and then I was cold. I was out for the count for about a week. I then started to find out more. And it was about that time that I ran into somebody, and he told me about a channel where I could find lots of information and a lot of support. And so I logged on to that. There's a chap called Robin Minotti who runs a channel, and it's for anybody that's concerned or is looking for, in my case, looking for support. For me, I'd felt so alone up until that point. I really couldn't talk to my family and my kids. My teenagers it seemed like they'd been brainwashed. And I could feel that everywhere. I could feel alienation because I held a different view. So I was trying to keep my mouth shut, but I was following the channel avidly. And bit by bit, I realized that I probably shouldn't have had the first jab, but then I was offered the second. And I thought, well, what's the point in, stopping now?
If you punch yourself in the face and it doesn't feel good, what's the point in stopping? I mean, maybe.
So I went and had the second, and then it got really bad. When you know that nothing will work, there's no medication you can take that will help, is very, very frightening. And the worst thing is you don't know when it's going to wear off or when it's going to go away. So that was what frightened me the most, medically, health-wise. I mean, to touch the guitar, to play the guitar is not fun, and it's something I do, then when I put it down, it's there until I go to bed, and I take sleeping pills because I can't sleep because of the pain, and it's not a good way to live. But and it's not all due to the vaccine, but the vaccine took my immune system and just shook it around again, and that's still going on. So, musician. When it came to the beginning of this year, and the Barrington guys were talking about the vaccine as being the deal breaker, and I thought, okay, and I went and had the jab. Within,
I'm gonna type. It's time we finally get the truth about this topic. Man, we've been lied to. And people harming us have been shielded unnecessarily. And that's not to say, let's say there's a universe where potentially, I'm not saying this to be true, I'm just saying hypothetically. Let's say if, where's the line? If 99% of the people that take something get a benefit, okay. But there's 1% who have a negative reaction. Okay. Does that justify forcing everybody to do something and say it's for the greater good? Doesn't matter if you want to opt out. You must do this to live in society. You go, huh? Do I need to live in the woods, like hunting and fishing? Like, I don't want to roll the dice. You give me a bowl of Skittles and there's 100 Skittles. And they said, go ahead, grab one. One will make you a little bit better. 99 will make you a little bit better. One of them's going to ruin you. Go on, eat. Eat. Let me watch. Eat. What if it's 90-10, 80-20, 75-25, 50-50? What's an acceptable number? And who are you to tell us what we can and can't opt out from? And if you made a bad batch of Skittles, why shouldn't we be allowed to go after you to make our to get some sort of recompense, to get some sort of I don't know, to make it right. You can't make it right if you lose somebody, but I don't know. I just hate this topic that it's been so poisoned that we can't discuss people legitimately being harmed. Cool, man. Dan Bongino here. I have a little bit more on Bobby Kennedy coming up. And it's not about Bobby Kennedy. It's about you and your health and the accountability of people who are saying stuff is safe and effective for you when show me the evidence and they can't. Well, excuse me. You're making record profits and you're exposing us to what? No. I'm so sorry, David. You're saying both your parents are messed up from it. I got a friend. He stayed in California. I fled, and he said, I'm having so many heart problems. I can't even, like, it's just, I feel it like bursting out of my butt. Like it's, and on the flip side, my younger, healthier brother did not take the COVID thing, and he died of COVID double pneumonia. Could it have helped him? Maybe it could have. It's not lost on me that there are percentages and flipping the coins, and maybe we never know, but at least be honest about it. And they haven't been honest. They haven't been honest with us about the true risk involved with any of this stuff. And that is malpractice. That's malfeasance. That's disgusting. And the people that are pushing this, along with exemptions, so they don't have to be a part of the guinea pig project, I'm not okay with that. I'm not tolerating that. So sorry to hear both of those things, David. By the way, how's your, on a brighter note, how is Spiral? Wait, is that the name? Your cat? Is your cat still doing good? But yeah, sorry to hear those two stories. But yeah, I got family members that took stuff, and I know 2 other people, grandparent aged, and they've definitely taken their shots, and they've definitely developed a series of health complications. One of them passed away, and one of them was given a very bad diagnosis. Is it related? I don't know. I read you reports from earlier this week about the birth rates plummeting, absolutely plummeting. You wonder if that's related. All right, Eric Daughtry here says Dan Bongino reveals over the past few months, FBI arrested 14,000 violent criminals, which is a 62% increase from last year. Over 825 violent child predators and 140 human traffickers. This is not a victory lap. We are doubling down hard. That murder rate is on track to be the lowest on record, Bongino says. All right. In that regard, thank you. Misfit Patriot says a Democrat sitting member of Congress just told the Jewish White House Deputy Chief of Staff to go back to 1930s Germany while calling him a racist for criticizing New York City voting in a socialist. Read that again, but slower. This is Mark Pokin saying racist F, go back to 1930s Germany. Who is he saying that to? I'm missing a little context here. But now I'm interested. So I'm going to look around for that story. Charlie Kirk saying Zoran is promising to hike the tax burden for whiter neighborhoods. What? Screw you, buddy. And by buddy, I mean the opposite of buddy. Charlie Kirk continues, maybe we shouldn't admit people from foreign countries who want to take things from the native population based on their race. Josh, Mountain Respecter, says, whiter neighborhoods. Understand where we are. Good grief. Shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Good God. Who is going to save New York City, asked the New York Post, after radical socialist, Islamist batters Cuomo in Democrat mayoral primary. I added Islamist. Asher Press calls them Islamo-socialist. Good grief, people. You know, and this is just kind of what I've been saying for, a year and a half now. These Hamas supporters, no, they don't, no, they're not saying an exterminate the Jews thing. No, they're just slightly against some of the policies, and, they just don't like Netanyahu, or, they got a problem, but they're not that bad. They're not. I said, they're saying what they're saying. You're just choosing to hear something different. This is Nate Friedman asking some people what they're feeling. These are Iran protesters are paid. He says this is proof. I don't know, maybe, but take a listen.
Do you want to see Israel destroyed?
What?
Do you want to see Israel destroyed?
Yeah.
You're Jewish.
I'm a long-time anti-Zionist.
I'm exposing one paid protester for every 100 followers I get.
Iran is funding Hamas and Hezbollah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like that's a good thing to do?
Of course. I would love for them to assassinate Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, and Smotrich, especially Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. I don't care about Netanyahu. I would love for them to do that, yes.
Okay. Would you say that it's okay if millions of Jews died in that process to that pursuit?
Well, Well, as long as the Israeli government is using them as hostages.
What do you do for work?
I don't.
You don't work? Why not?
I don't have to.
Now, I think she actually is working and as a professional protester. Here's her protesting without her sunglasses on. She usually does have them on. Here's her saying HP profits from Israel's torture of Palestinian political prisoners. Here's her saying democracy is not for sale. Back again with the Palestine flag, and again with the South African flag. Now, it's not just her, as we know that they work in teams.
South Africa, too, where they're extremely racist against whites.
Look at this blonde woman beside her. I found her at more protests than any other paid protester I've exposed in the past. I found her at close to 50 different protests, all within a couple of years. So who's behind this team of people chanting for Israel's destruction on America's streets? Their name is Sammy Dune. It's an organization based in Canada, and they are sanctioned by Canada as a terrorist group.
Canada, Sammy Dune.
In fact, in October of 2024, US and Canada issued joint statements listing Sammy Dune as a terrorist entity. Canada called them a sham charity who funnels money into the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which is a Marxist organization that recognizes a one-state solution with no Israel. Germany banned the group after members of Sammy Dune passed out candy celebrating October 7th. The founder of Sammy Dune, at a rally in Vancouver, publicly
celebrating the butchering of 1,200 people at a music festival. Screw these people.
Called Hamas heroic on the 7th and said that Hamas and Hezbollah don't engage in terrorism. If you look at the photos of this woman I interviewed, they almost all come from Sammy Dune's website. Now, the Tides Foundation and the Tides Center is behind this, and you remember the chief donor of the Tides Foundation, George Soros. However, all you see is that the Alliance for Global Justice is their fiscal sponsor. But if you lift the hood, you see that Soros gives to Tides, Tides gives to AFGJ, which then gives to Sammy Dune. Soros, along with the New Venture Fund, gave more than $9 million to the AFGJ, which again is the fiscal sponsor of Sammy Dune. They want it to look complicated so you don't see this, but make no mistake, Soros is funding this. It is also important to note that you can't even donate to the AFGJ with Stripe or PayPal or any normal methods, as all of those companies consider them terrorists. Yet they are still walking the streets of New York City screaming for the downfall of America.
Do you want to see Israel destroyed?
What?
Do you want to see Israel destroyed?
Yeah.
What was that quote from The Office? My, how was it about the plot thickens or the turntables? How the turntables. Interesting. The professional outrage artists. All right, let me buzz through what's going on our X feed here at American_media_. Hello, a human being saying, so who wants to leave? Like I said, let's go to Mars. Would I go to Mars? I'm thinking maybe. All right. So this right here, Barack Obama named one of our Navy support vessels Harvey Milk, who many users on X say is a child trafficker and an abuser. Pete Hegseth just renamed it after a Medal of Honor recipient, Oscar V. Peterson. Chicago One Ray says, my vote counted. This is what I voted for. So let's take a listen to our Secretary of Defense.
Well, I'm pleased to officially announce that the Department of the Navy is renaming the Fleet Replenishment Oiler, formerly known as the USNS Harvey Milk, to the USNS Oscar V. Peterson. We are taking the politics out of ship naming. We're not renaming the ship to anything political. This is not about political activists, unlike the previous administration. Instead, we're renaming the ship after a United States Navy Congressional Medal of Honor recipient, as it should be. People want to be proud of the ship they're sailing in. And so we're renaming it after a chief, a Navy chief. that during the Battle of the Coral Sea in May of 1942, Chief Water Tender Peterson led a repair party on the USS Neosho. The ship was severely damaged by Japanese dive bombers, and the entire repair party was either killed or severely wounded. Peterson himself was gravely wounded, yet he managed to single-handedly close the bulkhead stop valves, thereby helping to keep the ship operational. In performing his historic actions and heroic actions, Peterson received additional injuries and burns, which tragically resulted in his death. But his spirit of self-sacrifice and concern for his crewmates was in keeping with the finest traditions of the Navy. And for his heroic actions, Oscar Peterson was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. So I would like to officially welcome the USNS Oscar V. Peterson to the Navy's Vessel Register.
There you go. And all you got to do is do a quick deep dive. You don't have to dive very deep to look into Harvey Milk to see some very disturbing stories and accusations. And you wonder, is this really the best person to name a ship after? There you go. That's been changed. Okay. Dustin Gage says Harvey Milk was a pedo, whereas Oscar V. Peterson was a Medal of Honor recipient. Taking the politics out of ship naming. Okay. Wait, why is Churchill Downs trending? Don't fully understand why. Dubai World Cup winner hit show in paddock this morning. Preparation for Saturday's $1 million Stephen Foster Stakes. Huh. Okay. There you go. Is Zoran in New York a Trojan horse? This video is shared by Wall Street Apes. Carolyn Fippen. Here we go.
Some more great GPS tracking information from Tony Saruga. Looks like Mamdani, who just won the New York City Democrat primary for mayor there, appears to have been at Obama's place in Washington, D.C. twice in just 6 weeks. Who else was there? Leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood. And if you don't know who they are, you might want to study up on their history. They've been outlawed in Egypt, Syria, Russia, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Jordan, and, Austria, under their anti-terrorism laws. So yeah, just those guys and what appears to be a couple of Iranian operatives, both who are linked to Majid Farahani because they met with him in Venezuela last summer. So sure, this is going to go great for New York City. About the way it's gone for the U.S. since Obama was president, but on steroids.
Yeah, I'll take less of that, please. Here's Rush Limbaugh. Here's a flashback. Charlie Kirk saying nearly 20 years ago, Rush Limbaugh laid out what America's immigration policies should be. He called them the Limbaugh Laws. They sounded harsh, but in truth, he was just ripping them off from a country most Americans wouldn't suspect. We must dramatically reform and reduce legal immigration. Every person we let in must be because it's in our national interest to do so. We're full. Yeah, we're full to people that aren't going to make this place better.
Everybody's making immigration proposals these days. Let me add mine to the mix. Call it the Limbaugh Laws. First, you immigrate to our country, you have to speak the native language.
Agreed. Anybody disagree with that? We have a national language. It's English. Learn it or stay out.
You have to be a professional or an investor. No unskilled workers allowed.
A professional. A professional at what? No unskilled labor allowed. Well, unskilled labor should be for teenage kids, your first job or two.
So there'll be no special bilingual programs in the schools with the Limbaugh Laws, no special ballots for elections, no...
I have no problem learning a second language, but our schools shouldn't be bending over backwards to teach all these people. I mean, how many different languages are out there? We don't learn English. Bilingual ballots? No. We have American elections with the rules written in English, like standards. They're supposed to be standards.
No government business will be conducted in your language. Foreigners will not have the right to vote or hold political office. If
foreigners should not be allowed to vote or hold political office, of course.
If you're in our country, you cannot be a burden to taxpayers. You are not entitled to welfare or food stamps or other government goodies.
No takeaways, no handouts, no theft of resources that's supposed to be going to Americans.
You can come if you invest here, an amount equal to 40,000 times a daily minimum wage. If not, stay home. But if you want to,
I don't know where you get that specific number from, but okay.
By land, it'll be restricted. No waterfront, for instance, and as a foreigner, you have to relinquish individual rights to the property.
What's that property? What's this?
Want to buy land, it'll be restricted. No waterfront, for instance.
If you want to buy land, you can buy some land, but no waterfront properties. Okay, I mean, I read a book called Rising Sun. They made a movie with Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes, I believe, back in the whenever that was. And yeah, Japan. I think it was about Japan. Yeah, they don't let foreigners come in and buy up their property. Like, no, that's for the residents of the citizens of that country.
And as a foreigner, you have to relinquish individual rights to the property. And another thing, you don't have the right to protest. You're allowed no demonstrations, no foreign flag waving, no political organizing, no bad-mouthing our president or his policies. You're a foreigner. Shut your mouth or get out.
Go over to Russia or Ukraine and start screaming about their leader and see what happens. Why is it different here in America?
And if you come here illegally, you're going to jail.
Well, yeah.
Now, you think the Limbaugh laws are harsh? Well, every one of the laws I just mentioned are actual laws of Mexico today. That's how the Mexican government handles immigrants to their country.
Did you hear that? When I just said, okay, I didn't know where this was going per se. I have not watched this. But if that's what Mexico is doing, we sure as heck can do it. Yeah, go see how Putin and Zelensky treat you if you go start waving flags in their country and start telling them that their government's trash. Well, excuse me, you're not from here. What are you doing?
Yet Mexicans come here illegally and protest in our streets. How do you say double standard in Spanish? How about no mas?
Is that harsh or is that what we need to have? Hey, by the way, I'm going to share this. Is this can we see the video? Doesn't have the video here. Thomas Massey for Congress says, the big, beautiful bill keeps getting worse in the Senate, so the desperate smear campaign against me has begun. This is from the sleazy $1 million TV ad running in my district now. Here's my donation link. If you can help me beat back these lies, secure.thomasmassey.com/donate. There's the link here. And we said it's time to rally for Massey. Massey's out here talking about one of the biggest issues in America with these giant bills. Do you agree or disagree with Massey here?
Get rid of the giant bills. Okay. The omnibus bills, the continuing resolutions, and even the big, beautiful bill.
Mm-hmm.
Why not put that shit on the floor one at a time?
I agree.
And then that way you can go to your representative or your senators and say, why did you vote for that? Right now they can say, well, Theo, I had to vote for it. I had a pay raise for soldiers, right? They literally will put a pay raise for soldiers in every freaking bill.
Just so that you can never vote against it without the special interest groups destroying you, saying he voted against veterans.
Giant bill. So that if you vote against it, you have to go back home and watch TV ads that say he voted against a pay raise for the soldiers.
Right. Even though he may have voted for 90 other amazing things on the bill, right?
Right.
And that was one thing that was tied in there, that if you went this way,
yeah,
it may have been like oxygen for grandmothers, right?
Literally, there probably is that in there.
Oxygen for grandmothers. Yeah, I want single items. This is madness. You want to see this stupid ad? Check this out. Bad hombre here saying this ad against Massey is now running in Kentucky. Devastating. I don't know, bad hombre. What are you saying? You're going after Massey? Screw you. If I have this wrong, I apologize. But we said if these BS attacks on Massey these BS attacks on Massey make us want to defend him twice as much. If we had 51% of Congress like Massey, America would be on solid ground. Shame on the people who made this hit piece of garbage advertisement. Check this out.
What happened to Thomas Massey? President Trump is banning sex changes on minors. Massey voted against it.
Oh, for the love of God.
Voted against it. President Trump is cutting taxes and saving Kentucky families $10,000.
We're adding to the debt with this big, beautiful boondoggle.
Massey voted against it.
How are we cutting taxes on revenue when we owe $36 trillion on a credit card and the interest rate is driving us into the poorhouse?
President Trump is securing our border and deporting criminal aliens.
I'm sorry, are you going to say Thomas Massey wants open borders?
Massey voted against Trump again.
Oh my God.
After Trump obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program, Massey sided with Democrats. And
Thomas Massey didn't want an undeclared war in the Middle East? No fucking shit. None of us do. Yeah, you're not going to catch me saying, oh, I want Iran to have nuclear weapons. They keep calling us the devil and vow to wipe us off the map. What do you mean us? They're only doing that to Israel. No. They're the little Satan and we're the big Satan, like or vice versa. It's the same. This advertisement is the most disingenuous piece of shit I've seen in a long time. If you want to close your eyes and throw a dart, if you just want to pick a random congressman to try to get a decent opinion, a decent take on almost every issue, Massey's one of the best we have. It's not a perfect system. Can't say he's right on everything on every point. And I know President Trump's gone against him and started blasting him. But you know what? Maybe you should listen to him a little bit. Not because he's infallible, but because he makes a lot of sense. This ad is terrible, David. Yes. Disgusting.
And the Ayatollah.
Oh, yeah, he's with the Ayatollah. Fucking assholes. Thomas Massey, this is not constitutional. Did President Trump get authorization to drop bombs? Oh, no, well, every president does. It's the War Powers Act. It's like, well, why? How did we end up in Afghanistan for 25 years? Iraq twice. There's a general consensus that we shouldn't be fighting forever wars. Oh, but now it's okay. Right. Oh, yeah, Thomas Massey's an Ayatollah. Oh, yeah, he puts him next to... This ad sucks. Next to Bernie Sanders, AOC, and...
With Democrats and the Ayatollah. Let's...
MAGA KY? Screw you, MAGA KY.
Fire Thomas Massey. MAGA Kentucky is responsible for the content of this advertising. What?
Gross. Nope. Thomas Massey says the big beautiful bill now allows funding sex changes for minors. This ad slams me for voting against the BBB, but the Senate just stripped the ban on sex changes for minors. By the ad's twisted logic, those who support the Senate's edits now support sex changes for minors. So stupid. Cat Turd asking, you have these MAGA influencers that just take everything Trump does and goes out with their marching orders, regardless of whether they personally feel that way or not. And that's a dangerous thing. That's cult-like behavior. Cat Turd says, who's Thomas Massey's biggest donor? Grok says, biggest donors are retired individuals, 643 grand. And Republican conservative groups, 538 grand. Based on his campaign data from 11 to 24, notably received no contributions from AIPAC, consistent with his public criticism of their influence. While some question his broader independence, no evidence suggests AIPAC or pro-Israel groups fund him. His reliance on individual donors supports claims of autonomy from such lobbies. Massey says, is there a burn center for feline feces? All right, A.J. Huber reporting a huge win by the Supreme Court. In an opinion authored by Amy Coney Barrett, the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, rules against unlimited nationwide injunctions from district court judges. The court did not rule on birthright citizenship. The majority was Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Roberts, Thomas, Alito, and Barrett. And look at that. The three losers that vote on the wrong side of every fucking issue, Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan. They are wrong about everything. Giant win in the U.S. Supreme Court. Even the birthright citizenship hoax has been indirectly hit hard. It had to do with the babies of slaves the same year, not the scamming of our immigration process. Congrats to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Solicitor General John Sawyer, and the entire Department of Justice. News conference at 11 a.m. President Trump says, giant win in the U.S. Supreme Court. Even the birthright citizenship hoax has been indirectly hit hard. Okay, I'm sorry. That's exactly what was typed earlier. Roscoe Smith IV says, the art of the deal on the world stage is this. Start a tariff war and win. Have Doge defund the Democrat machine. Eliminate Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz which affects Chinese oil. Respond by bombing Iran's oil facilities and fields. Russia and China don't have a direct source without us. We can end all the wars at once by controlling who has the weapons and oil and then refuse to fund any side but ours with them. It's pure genius. So here's President Trump talking about this trade deal with Russia.
Everybody wants to make a deal and
everybody wants to make a deal.
Have a part of it, right? I know you and Howard and Scott are working overtime, making deals with other countries. Remember a few months ago, the press was saying, do you really have anybody of any interest? Well, we just signed with China yesterday, right? Just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%. That's the easy way to do it. And my people don't want to do it that way. They want to do some of it, but they want to make more deals than I would do. But we're having some great deals. We have one coming up, maybe with India, very big one, where we're going to open up India. In the China deal, we're starting to open up China, things that never really could have happened. And the relationship with every country has been very good. And we also have OMB Director, who's very busy also. Russ Vogt. Thank you. Thank you, Russ.
So, I keep hearing about this China deal. Is this the same clip that I just played?
A few months ago, the press was saying, do you really have...
Yes, same clip. Okay. All right, let's take a look here. Birthright citizenship for children of those residing illegally in the U.S. is officially dead. Well, let's listen and see if we're getting correct analysis on this. This is from Fox News.
It is at least a partial, if not a full, and we're reading this because there are several concurrences here, but it's written by Justice Barrett, which goes against the ruling that I just gave the guidance because she's one of the least junior justices, but she was assigned to write this opinion. And essentially what she says, some say that the universal injunctions give the judiciary a power.
Sorry, did she say least junior? That's a double negative, too. Junior being, I don't know.
But she was assigned to write this opinion. And essentially, I just gave the guidance because she's one of the least junior justices, but she was assigned to write this opinion. And essentially what she says, some say that the universal...
Is least junior meaning most senior?
She says some say that the universal injunctions give the judiciary a powerful tool to check the executive branch. But she says federal courts do not exercise general oversight of the executive branch. They resolve cases and controversies consistent with the authority Congress has given to them. When a court concludes the executive branch has acted unlawfully, the answer is not for the court to exceed its power, sounding very much like they are limiting these injunctions. We know here that they have granted at least partially the stay to these preliminary injunctions, but they say only to the extent that the injunctions are broader than necessary to provide complete relief to each plaintiff withstanding to sue.
Man, this is confusing, right?
Have granted at least partially the stay to these preliminary injunctions, but they say only to the extent that the injunctions are broader than necessary to provide complete relief to each plaintiff withstanding to sue. They say the lower courts have to move expeditiously with respect to each of these plaintiffs. It says the injunctions are also stayed to the extent that they prohibit executive agencies from developing and issuing public guidance about the executive plans to implement the executive order. If you remember, part of this executive order on birthright citizenship, the stay was that the agencies that would be responsible for actually implementing the change with birthright citizenship, those agencies couldn't even start making a plan. So that part of it is lifted as well. We do see that the dissent here comes from the three justices you expect. It looks like Justice Sotomayor filed the dissent. Kagan and Jackson joined that. Justice Jackson also filed a dissenting opinion, but there are a lot of concurrences here. Justice Thomas, Justice Alito, there are others. So we'll parse through this, but at its first blush, it looks like this is a win in putting a limit on these nationwide injunctions. We'll see how far those limits go as we dig back through this.
Got it. Want to bring Jonathan Turley back in. Shannon, thank you. So, Jonathan, it sounds like this is kind of what you were mentioning earlier.
Okay, they're going to cut Turley out. M.A. Rotham says it's a huge victory. Also, Justice Barrett slapped the snot out of Justice Jackson, who arguably is looking for judicial supremacy. What's it say? Coney Barrett said, when a court concludes that the executive branch has acted unlawfully, the answer is not for the court to exceed its power to. We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. Sean Davis says, in her majority opinion for the Supreme Court, nuking universal injunctions, Amy Coney Barrett also juked Ketanji Brown Jackson from orbit. We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent. Not to mention the Constitution itself. We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive, Trump, while embracing an imperial judiciary, SCOTUS, or like the injunctions in the lower courts. Laura Ingram says Justice Barrett's brutal takedown of dissent authored by Justice Jackson is something one wouldn't have predicted from oral arguments. Amuse says, huge victory to President Trump from SCOTUS, 6-3 decision. Court rules against unlimited nationwide injunctions from district court judges. But the court did not rule on the birthright citizenship issue. So will it? Can we get birthright citizenship quickly, please? Fix our country. Stop foreigners from changing our country. Sooner the better. Bueller, is this thing on? All right, so here's some analysis here.
Happened to Donald Trump, multiples of that. And now, finally, this case has made its way up to the Supreme Court. And so we're going to go through this case as quickly as we can. It looks like, at first glimpse, and we're just starting, it looks like the court has put some...
And yes, it is very strange wording. It's negatives, double negatives, and triple negatives. It's
limits on the ability of district courts, trial courts, to issue those kind of rulings. And it looks
so the district courts can't put these roadblocks in the way of what the president's doing.
Like the court has said, district courts only have the power to do that in certain very narrow circumstances. So we're going to go through this and get the details soon, but that's the
gist of it. Mike Gallagher show, it curbs nationwide injunctions. High court ruled to limit birthright citizenship and rein in the power of lower courts to block presidential orders. Sort of. All right. Universal injunctions are improper and exceed the power of federal courts. Sides with Trump admin in its request to partially enforce birthright citizenship order. Hey, here's something fun. You've heard the theory about Trump being a time traveler? Like, what? I thought you were talking about hard news here. Yeah, we do a little bit of both.
There's a theory out there that the Trumps are actually time travelers.
Now, judging from how this video was put together, I don't know if this is really a conversation Rogan was having or if this was like an AI with a fake voice.
There's a theory out there that...
Because that didn't match up what that was. But this theory is out there, and I've heard this a few times.
The Trumps are actually time travelers. And it all starts with Nikola Tesla. When Tesla died in 1943, he had over 80 trunks full of secret inventions, scientific papers, and wild futuristic ideas. The US government rushed to secure his belongings. But guess who they sent to examine all of it? Trumpin' MIT physicist and Donald Trump's uncle. Now here's where it gets strange.
Yeah, I think this is a fake Rogan, but this is the story that I've heard a bunch of times.
Believe that John G. Trump didn't just inspect Tesla's work, he took some of it. And
I'm wondering if they're going to flag this because of the stupid piano in the background. So I'll read this. They claim that, all right, here's where it gets strange. Some believe that John G. Trump didn't just inspect Tesla's work, he took some of it, and among Tesla's claims, he supposedly figured out how to manipulate time. So the theory goes, Trump used Tesla's idea to create a time machine. Man, Truman, what are they, what? Which Trump may have then used to fast forward to another weird piece of the, I don't know what that says. Book called, my God. I want to just play this, but I don't want the, whatever.
Family may have used. Fast forward to another weird piece of the puzzle, a book from 1,800.
Yeah, this is so AI. So weird. A book from 1893 called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. Huh? The main character, a boy named Baron Trump, who discovers portals and travels through time. And the coincidences are wild. The same last name, same spelling of Baron. The themes of time travel and alternate dimensions. And all this, it adds up to Trump's going through time for a generation. Is it real? Who knows? But it makes you wonder. All right, that was a little labored, but I found it interesting, so I shared it. Yeah, I took the sound off of it because there's stupid piano in the background that could, oh, you violated copyright. Interesting stuff. People are claiming President Trump was putting some sort of comms out with 1817 paperclip line. Trump talked about the paperclip being invented in 1817, but it wasn't. It was 1890s. So go through that thread if you're interested in that topic. So, stuff to consider. Philip Schuyler says, if you think the cheating was only 5 or 6 states, consider this. According to Judicial Watch, 353 counties in 29 different states had voter registration exceeding 100% in 2020. This was not an election. It was a coup disguised as an election. Do you agree or disagree with that? Newt Gingrich chiming in here because he says it's ridiculous that the Senate parliamentarian can have the power to force hundreds of billions of changes in the big, beautiful bill. How can one Senate staffer have that kind of power over the House, the Senate, and the president? It's an example of how sick Washington has become. No wonder the American people are disgusted with a big spending, high taxing, self-protecting system. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny says, under RFK Jr.'s Maha direction, the new ACIP just removed the universal flu shot recommendation and voted against thimerosal containing vaccines. No press release, no spotlight, just a quiet reversal after decades of pushing mercury-laced shots on the masses. The science didn't change, the politics did. This is what happens when truth gets a seat at the table. Rand Paul says, I'm with Thomas Massey on this one. The omnibus bills suck. Break up the bill so we can vote on individual matters, not a bunch of things at once. I agree with Rand Paul. I stand with Rand. I stand with Thomas Massey. Amuse saying this is an insurrection. The drive-by media refuses to report, but each night in Portland, Antifa militants launch violent assaults on ICE facilities and federal agents. Only one journalist, Katie Daviscourt of the Post-Millennial, is courageously documenting the chaos, now entering its 19th straight day. It's astonishing that in America, we're witnessing a sustained insurrection against the federal government, not only ignored, but seemingly abetted by local officials. One can only assume that police have been ordered to stand down, giving Antifa free rein to attack federal officers with impunity. That's a story you need to know about. James O'Keefe talking about how Gary Webb exposed the truth and paid with his life. The CIA didn't just discredit Webb, they systematically took him down. Laura Logan says the CIA ran a counter-op using the press to dismantle him and it worked. Now Logan warns, if we let that happen again, the truth dies with the messenger. That's a 2-hour video worth watching. James O'Keefe and Laura Logan, very important voices. And of course, Deb was pointing this out, a highlight from yesterday's show.
Wait, Deb, you went so far as to you edited out the clip?
This is Inception right here.
Oh my God, she did. No!
This is me watching me watch me.
What's happening? This is Inception level right here.
We've gone a third level now.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Have you been a regular viewer?
Hold on, Kenneth, you said your sound went out and it came back in. Did anybody else's sound go out and come back in? I didn't change my sound.
Of our show, Mark G. Welcome to the bar. Belly on up. Pull your chair up to the bar here. Mark G, where are you watching us from today? We have Deb up in San Francisco, David Ban in
Oh my God, I did say it.
Ontario, Bella's Chance in the Cape.
It's Sacramento, I know that.
Near Massachusetts. Yeah, well, you go by Deb Rooney, so that's why. You did it to yourself. All right, fine.
Deb Rooney, the San Francisco treat.
Fine. I will retract. I will correct rather. That's obviously
Real time
your name is
getting
Deb from
fact checked.
Sac. I know that it's Sacramento.
Jamie, can you pull up where I said San Francisco instead of Sacramento?
I said San Francisco though. My bad. Good catch. Good catch. Did that just happen?
I'm being fact checked in real
I
time.
said San Francisco though. My bad. Good catch. Good catch. Did that just happen?
What's happening?
Hey Jamie, pull up where I colored Deb from San Francisco instead of Sacramento. Jamie? Oh, by Jamie I mean Deb. Yeah, I've been caught.
You know, if you watch live, you know. If you know, you know. I didn't know I said that. Of course, she would be primed to hear that I had that mess up, but I was like, no way I said that. I guess I did. Good catch, Deb. All right. Ted Cruz trying to set the record straight with Hannity. Man, I saw a bad Ted Cruz video last week. I'll tell you what, I went off on him.
The Democrats who are talking to the press, they're lying, and they're lying deliberately. They know they're lying. I spent an hour and a half this afternoon in a classified briefing with the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the head of the CIA, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They walked through the operation that was carried out on Saturday night by President Trump. And I've got to tell you, the operation was a spectacular success. First of all, our servicemen and women, those airmen that carried out the strikes, they flew from Missouri halfway around the world in 7 B-2 stealth bombers. They delivered 14 bunker buster bombs.
Look, Ted, we know that. We know all that. We know that. What we don't know is, did they move the stuff prior to the bombing? No one's saying planes didn't fly and bombs didn't drop, but was stuff moved? I pointed out yesterday how, weapons of mass destruction never existed. Yeah, they did. They were moved out of there. Saddam had time, some people say. Like Larry Elder, one of the few that are still saying that. So, I mean, I don't know. Ted Cruz is like replaying all the statistics and logistics of what happened. Like, we get it, but was the stuff even there? If they were building it, I'm sure they were building a backup plan of how to get it out of there in case they were found out and attacked.
Precisely on target. Every bomb hit their target to devastating effect. Every one of those bombs is a 30,000-pound bomb. They are the most lethal bombs we have in our entire arsenal other than nuclear weapons. They hit their target precisely. In addition to that, we had a submarine that fired 30 Tomahawk missiles and pounded. Together, between the bunker busters and the Tomahawk missiles, we hit 3 nuclear weapons sites in Iran, utterly devastated them, and then every one of them came home. There was not a single American casualty. This was an incredible American military operation. I commend the servicemen and women who carried it out, and I commend the commander-in-chief who gave the clear-headed, clear-eyed order, we will defend America.
All right. Ted's out there doing his thing. Tom Cotton talking about Democrats in the media with TDS. I agree.
In terms of the access of briefing that the Democrats get. Now, maybe they're going to come out and tell you they're not satisfied. Some Democrats, some in the media seem to have such a case of Trump derangement syndrome that they're rooting for the survival of Iran's nuclear program versus celebrating the success of our pilots and their crews. But I think the answers they got in there should be totally satisfactory.
Was the discussion about the leaks in there at all?
Yes, there was condemnation of the leaks by both the briefers and Republicans and Democrats, for that matter. We should not ever leak classified information.
Mr. Chairman, if there's additional force required necessary to do further damage to Iran's nuclear program, do you think that action should be vetted or consulted through Congress?
In terms of the access of...
Yeah, right. Johnny Midnight says, keep her name out there. Here's a Republican named Danielle Stella running against Ilhan Omar. Share this everywhere. Oh, please vote Ilhan Omar out. But when you import people from a foreign nation to take over your city, your district, will you forever have an enclave that's going to keep people like Ilhan Omar in office with her anti-American agendas? Not born in America, not representing America, representing foreign nations. Matt Van Swole here says, after nearly 8 months rebuilding businesses and homes after Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina, the Amish were given the privilege of being one of the first groups of people allowed to visit the iconic Chimney Rock State Park. God bless the Amish. Representative Andy Ogle says, bye-bye, little Muhammad. Ooh. He says, if you lied on your N-400 naturalization forms, you're going home. What's this about? Well, DC Drano says a Tennessee congressman is trying to save New York City from a communist takeover. So Doc M says, I posted the same about the N-400 form. As a naturalized citizen, I went through the process and know the consequences of lying on that form. Doc M says, the naturalization form has a long section with questions about membership and activities related to communism, Nazism, military and terrorist groups, and many more. If someone answers no to a question, then proved to have lied, that might be ground to revoke citizenship. That being said, I really want this whole fiasco to play out. As Fetterman said, this is Christmas in July for the GOP. We wouldn't have asked for a better gift from the left. So if this dude came in from Uganda 6-7 years ago, and he's a commie, and he lied on his form, kick him out. This post here comparing Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, saying Sharia law does not belong in the U.S. People are asking what happened in New York. This is allegedly New York. Taken over, looking like London. This is happening on a global scale. Here's something interesting. Libs of TikTok reported 3 teens were arrested for ripping a rainbow pride flag in Atlanta and charged with obstruction, criminal damage to property, conspiracy, and prowling. Facing the possibility of hate crime charges, if convicted as a felony, they could be sentenced to 10 years behind bars. Oh, stop it. You can burn an American flag, but you can't desecrate other flags. That makes no sense. Luke Radowski says, free the boys. If you can burn an American flag, you can burn any flag. Come on, this is mad. Oh, they face 10 years of... Give me a break. Is this on the Charlie Kirk show? Or this is a response to Charlie Kirk? Okay, hang on. Here's Charlie. Let's let him talk.
Islam will be spread by two ways: through the importation of Muslims into your country, or the spread of lower income, predominantly minority men. Would you agree with that?
And the left love Islam, and they will import Islam, and we see that in Australia and in London. One of the major people in the Department of Education in London, he's literally an imam and a mufti. He's literally an Islamic scholar and an imam who preaches. You will see Islam make its way into the left.
There's music in the background of this video. For the love of God, stop using music in the background of these videos. I'm trying to listen to this interview so that you can see if you agree or disagree. But it's got the damn music.
Wing politics, that's one of the reasons the borders were open the
last 4 years. It's why the borders were left open intentionally. It's about changing the character of this nation. Fundamentally, the way to destroy America will be Islam, says this guy. And this is a very obvious situation in the UK. Half of Americans are left, half of Americans are right, give or take. The only way for leftism to win permanently is to import a group of people that fundamentally hate the American freedom, and that happens to be Islam, says this guest with Charlie Kirk. Those are his words, not mine. Do you agree or disagree with that interpretation of why the left is doing what the left is doing? Did you see this meme? Look at this one. They're literally doing the cat meme. She's yelling at Pete Hegseth. He's looking like a cat. Allison says, hey, relax, leftists. It was a mostly peaceful Iranian bombing. Bilbo Baggins says, Jennifer, you ignorant slut. That's a callback to Saturday Night Live, of course. Here's Tucker talking about this lady, Jen Griffin.
Jen Griffin is a liar, but also very liberal. Wow, true Trump hater. To the point where I complained about her, and I really tried not to complain about other people at Fox when I worked there because, like, I don't like that, office politics stuff. But she was discrediting the channel. She was such a Trump hater. And it was like emotional, like her internal memos, from the Pentagon, sources are telling us, were like screeds. It was like, oh, I'll just read Political Playbook if that's what, or whatever. I'll read Mother Jones. And I said to an executive at Fox, like, what are we doing with this Jennifer Griffin person? She's an idiot. She doesn't tell the truth. She misleads our viewers. And she's like a screaming liberal who hates Trump, who our viewers love. So what are we getting out of this? And I was like, whatever. It's like, boy, you could not touch Jennifer Griffin. I don't know what that's about. It's Jen Griffin.
All right. Well, there you go. That's a lady going after Pete Hegseth and Trump. Brian Cates says, LOL, Wired made it sound like this big balls guy was getting out because he didn't like the job or working for Trump anymore. Turns out he was just moving right into a key slot at the Social Security Administration. There you go. This is CNN backtracking as they air that Trump was right, the Iranian strikes were effective, and the leaked intel report was wrong. All this concern about the children impacted by U.S. aid cuts, says Mike Benz. It reminds him of when the CIA ran a fake vaccine program to secretly collect people's DNA and ran the CIA operation through a U.S. aid-partnered NGO called Save the Children. Good God. The Iranian intelligence report leak may have come from Congress, per Carolyn Levitt. There's zero reason to allow Democrat activists in Congress access to classified documents. They can't be trusted. Nick Sorter says, I don't care how much they whine, keep them in the dark. I agree. Tim Pool talking about Zoran, the commie.
I'll be honest. I have literally no problem with Donald Trump using the DOJ to go after. Look, if Zoran gets elected and he literally says we will defy federal law, then he should be indicted and charged with sedition.
Hell yeah.
The DOJ should go in and remove him and federalize the city if they have to. Listen, we have federal law. I don't care what the left and the liberals say. I've explained this a couple of years ago. You may as well be France arguing about the state of the American government. When these socialists, these commies, these far left people say, well, you're arguing for fascism. No, you are not part of what we are talking about. We over here are talking about the United States of America. We have laws. We have a federal government. The laws that were passed say illegal immigrants get deported. You in New York, as a system of governance, are saying you will violate American law. Well, then that's called sedition.
Right.
And we will send in the DOJ and Donald Trump to arrest you for sedition, remove you. You will lose your authority, creating a crisis where the federal government's going to have to federalize your city and have new elections. And if the next guy comes in, says, we too will violate federal law, then you say, okay, let's roll. Sedition again. But if the Republicans are unwilling to do this, then you just lose. Because the left has, if we keep playing this game of pendulum swing, what do we get? The pendulum swings to the right and they stop and they say, slow down there, Democrats. The pendulum goes left and they go, quick, smash all the windows out. Then it swings back to the right and they say, stop. Basically, every time the Republicans win, it's a timeout. And every time the Democrats win, it's smashing
forward.
and burning.
Yeah.
All right. I like how he phrased that. That's the truth. The Republicans are always on defense, never on offense. That's very different with President Trump. And it needs to be this way because the left will not stop running offensive plays when they seize control of the country and try to destroy it. Yes, Representative Andy Ogles urges Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, to revoke citizenship of socialist NYC mayoral candidate Zoran Little Mohammed Mamdani, says Gateway Pundit, and deport him to Uganda over his ties to terrorist sympathizers. Alex Jones has an interview with Elon Musk's mysterious father, Errol Musk. We talk about free energy, the Great Awakening, how he named Elon after a Werner von Braun character, the true state of South Africa, faster than light travel through space-time, and how he became the top military shooter in South Africa and more. Actually does sound kind of interesting. Doge just terminated 312 government contracts with a ceiling value of $2.8 billion in a savings of $470 million in just the last week, according to Libs of TikTok. Check this one out. Notably, a $286,000 professional and management development contract for an entrepreneurship course at Harvard University, and a $485,000 USAID contract for a senior general development advisor at USAID Madagascar. Here's Mom Donnie talking about, well, just listen in his words.
Oftentimes, we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and they're having.
Yes, a burglary is a violent crime.
Used when people are accused of burglary and there happens.
What do you mean accused? What if when people burgle? What do you mean when they're accused of? When they do burglarize?
Crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and there happens to be a housing unit in that same dwelling. So violence is an artificial construction.
Violence is an artificial construction?
So violence is an artificial construction. And we have to be very clear that what is happening here with these district attorneys, that is violence. That is violence of the
district attorneys getting dirtbags off the street that are burglarizing your homes. The district attorneys are violent, not the violent thieves. Alex has some strong words. F this R, he says. We said flee blue cities, flee blue states. Democrats love violence and crime for some reason. Elon here talking about being useful at scale is the hardest thing in the world. And it's incredibly difficult to a lot of people. So you should try to be as useful as possible. It may sound, well, let's just play it.
Try to be as useful as possible. It may sound trite, but it's so hard to be useful, especially to be useful to a lot of people. Where you say the area under the curve of total utility is like how useful have you been to your fellow human beings times how many people. It's almost like the physics definition of true work. It's incredibly difficult to do that. And I think if you aspire to do true work, your probability of success is much higher. Like don't aspire to glory, aspire to work. Try to be as
Don't aspire to glory, aspire to work and being helpful. Roger Stone strongly supports Elise Stefanik for governor of New York. She's exactly the right woman at the right time to turn around the Empire State, he says. This imam explains why radical Muslims consistently align with and vote for the left. This is an interview with Dinesh D'Souza, who's found in the intro to my Agree to Disagree show.
When I was an extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left. Why is that? I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them, go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion, go kill yourselves, go do that. Ilhan Omar, she's fighting for abortion rights and all the other, my body, my choice. Yes, go do that. But would she have an abortion? Never. Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
Did you catch that? Benny Johnson shares the Hero Church security guard in Michigan who shared his story of taking down the active shooter. By the grace of God, the shooter heard, this guy heard automatic rifle fire. But the guy missed him. He engaged and took care of the threat. And of course, we're still going in on the AutoPen story. All right, well, Nimbus has come up to me looking for lunch, I think. I've exhausted my stories from Instagram and Facebook, Instagram and X. So I'm going to now sign out and continue upon the other tasks of my day. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the program. Follow the New American Media on the following places at the bottom of the screen: Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odysee, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube at the New American Media. Come here, Nimbus. Hey, hi. He had to come in and here, let me. He's reaching for me. He's reaching. How do I get the comments? Where are the comments? I've been Nim busted. Here, Nim. No, over here. Hi. You gonna give me a headbutt or what? Hey, buddy. Where was I? I don't know. The New American Media. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odysee, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube. The New American Media. Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat. On X at American_Media_. And subscribe to our podcast, The Agree to Disagree Show, on Spotify and Apple. Sign up to be a Patreon sponsor each month. On the first, it will bill you either $5 a month, $15 a month, $100 a month, or $1,000 a month, whatever you're into. We appreciate it all. So that's at the bottom of the screen. Our tip jar is also on Venmo and Cash App at BrianEngelman and PayPal at Fuzz Installment. Thank you, everybody, to being a part of the program today. And we'll be back again, I believe, tomorrow, unless we go later in the day tomorrow. So we shall see. I got to check the weather, check a couple things. Might be working on another project. But yes, I appreciate you all for being here today. So does Nimbus, my 93-year-old dude here. He appreciates you joining. So I'm going to sign out. Right, Nimbus? We're gone? Aw, nice guy. Thank you all. David Kenneth. Who else was in here? We had a bunch of people in here. Thank you to everybody. And we'll be back. I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll talk to you again soon. Take care. And peace. Oh, yeah, Dinesh D'Souza and Roger Stone, two people from the news in our intro. Enjoy.
your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.